Welcome to Joy of Business with host Simone Milasas, a dynamic business leader with a difference. Simone has founded and operated many businesses from a young age and has always done business differently. Today, Simone is the worldwide coordinator of Access Consciousness and travels the world presenting Joy of Business programs using access tools and empowering people to know that they can create business in a different way and make money doing it. Simone Milasas, weekly on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, everyone. Actually, today it is not Simone Milasas here on the Joy of Business radio show. This is Rebecca Hulse, the creative producer of Joy of Business. And I have here one of my favorite side deck partners for hijacking the OMTimes radio show. I have with me Emily Russell, who is our head of marketing.
Hi,
everybody. Hey, Emily.
Hi.
And this is actually now going to be a regular thing. Once a month, Emily and I are going to hijack Simone's show. Unfortunately, or not so, considering how much she loves it, Simone is getting a little busy and creating more than ever before. And so we thought we'd just take a little bit of a load off her hands by hijacking her show and hanging out with you once a month. So how does it get any better than that? And so for this first official hijack, instead of some of the unofficial ones that we've done, we actually have a great friend of ours who goes by a little bit of a different name. We have the incredible dominatrix, Glitter Goddess, on with us for a little chat about domination.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. Cool. So, I mean, this is one of those conversations. I have no idea where we're going to start because there's so much I want to come out of my mouth right now. So, Emily, maybe you can give me a hand here and do a little bit of an introduction of the bio that we are going crazy over in our Skype thread.
Well, sure. I'll even start with, we were talking about the title of this show, and we were talking about, okay, we want to look at the business aspect of what you do, Glitter Goddess, and like the business of domination. And I know for me, at least, there's so much domination, that word, just the definition of it and the energy we attach to it and all the different stuff that comes up when you hear that. Like, it's different for so many people. And I would love you to talk a little bit about just that word, domination, what it means to you, what you see it means to other people, and how you use it to your advantage in business.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I think a lot of what comes to mind when people first think of domination is a leather-clad, leather outfitted woman with like a whip and chains and willing to do anything for her pleasure and to get what she wants. Some of that sort of applies to what I do, but when it comes to domination in business, and really domination in any area of my life, I actually look at it from a different perspective, which is when you go through life and there are people who confront you, attack you, want to fight, even have just a different point of view and are louder about it than you are, how do you get your voice out there if you're one of those more soft-spoken people or somebody who just has kind of a more gentle demeanor? Because one thing that's different about the way that I do domination is it's never about cruelty or force or violence or really just impelling what I want. It's actually more of a seduction into new possibilities and into a different way of seeing things. So that can just be applied in basically every area of life. So that's what I'm exploring.
I love that. It's so different from what, I don't know, I thought so many different things, like what you said, that a dominatrix was all about, like, one, having sex and having the whips and having all of that, and that's all it was. Like, I didn't know there was other parts to it. How did you first get into it? And, like, did you have a different idea of what it was before you started your business in domination?
Well, I knew that I always enjoyed control. So it actually took me a little while to realize that what I was doing was technically domination. So no, I didn't actually think about it in those terms. And domination has so much more to do with the way you be than what you're wearing or what you're doing or what you're even saying. So sex is actually never a part of my business, so there are essential aspects to it. So that's probably one of the biggest misnomers that there is about domination, is that you can actually apply these techniques to any area of life, including business, where you feel either disempowered or you feel either victimized or there's like a bully. What I've found is in my business, it's spread to these different areas of life where I didn't know I was kind of being dominated by these different people. It's like, have you guys had that before, where you're maybe even just in a friendship or in family where there's someone who's just kind of like a bully and you don't really know how to deal with that?
Totally. I remember being like a kid and picking friends sometimes that were would completely dominate me and liking it in some weird way. And my mom used to be like, can you get off the phone with her? Like, she's being so cruel to you. And it just seemed normal. It was really interesting. I can totally look back now and say I didn't do it often. But when I was younger, I definitely tried out that role. And then did feel more comfortable in other ones. But I definitely look at that now. I'm like, that was interesting that I would choose that. For sure, I know.
There's a relaxation. There's actually a sense of peace sometimes when somebody else is taking the lead, and that totally can work, especially when that person has ideas that go along with like what you'd like to create and what you'd like to enjoy. But then there are also situations too where you're kind of being led down a road that doesn't really work for you. Classes that I'm doing and the things that I'm exploring is about how to find your voice there.
Which is can you talk about, so that's really different. And I think the way you do domination and the way you talk about it now is so different. Like, can you talk about domination from like control over someone versus domination from kind of that place of space, if that makes sense, and the difference between that?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I had to explore really early on when I started playing with being a dominatrix is, what do I actually enjoy? Because if somebody's offering to please me in any area, any way, but they're so open and they don't necessarily have a specific idea of what that looks like, it's actually up to the dominator or the dominatrix to say, well, I would like this, this, and this. So part of it is actually beginning to look at what your reality is and to see what you'd like to have, what you'd like to experience, what you'd like to create, what projects you'd like to play with. Because when somebody else is taking the lead, it's easy to kind of play along with that, but when you're actually put in the position of needing to be the chooser, it actually steps you into a whole different level of choosing. And with the tools of access consciousness, we're always kind of looking at choice creates and just choose and see what is created from there. And I'd say playing with domination has given me a whole different sense of comfortability with choosing and finding out what it creates.
Wow, that is so cool. I mean, you think about, because I'm looking at like business and how we work with other people and how often you do look to someone else to like, they're going to take the lead on that or they're going to do that. And it does put you in this, and sometimes, like you said, it's relaxing or more like, you're like, okay, I don't have to do that. But it also does take you out of creation of some point, right? Because you're not the one choosing or like leading the way.
Yeah, and one of the things I really appreciate about Simone Milasas, and I've had the pleasure of taking several of her Joy of Business classes, is that when she has people that work with her, and she actually uses that on purpose, works with instead of works for her, she lets people take the lead in their area and lets them actually thrive. And what I see is that encourages them and supports them in having the role of being the chooser, being the person in the lead, and they get to see what their choices create. And she just lets them go. And to me, that is just such a exquisite way of doing business.
And it's so empowering.
I love that. Yeah. And the other thing that I'm looking at too, like say for some of our listeners here looking at this, like not everyone has a business here, and some people would consider themselves not having much choice in your job or in your work. And so I'm wondering how we can extrapolate these tools over this radio show into how you can use domination in the business, like in the workplace too, to create a different possibility.
Yeah. And with working with other people, there are usually these kind of interpersonal relationships that get developed. And sometimes there are patterns that develop over time that become kind of expected. But when somebody is looking to actually shift or alter that pattern, it almost takes even more of an impetus or more of a shift from than starting with a new relationship. So if somebody has a kind of pattern developed of being more in the submissive role or in a role of more response and reaction to a person rather than being the one who is kind of starting, like taking the initiative or beginning, or I guess you could say leading the way the interaction goes. The biggest tool that I would say is actually to use the tool of interesting point of view. I have this point of view, because essentially when somebody is looking to be a bit of an aggressor or looking to bully, oftentimes they're looking for the other person to kind of resist or react, which I don't know if you guys have felt this before, but sometimes you almost, like, you'll have a conversation with somebody and they almost expect you to fight. Even when you're just like, you know, talking about something just easy in business that should maybe feel easy, if they're expecting that kind of resistance, it can almost feel like there's not really a choice to either resist or not. So I love the tool of interesting point of view. I have this point of view, and really actually just being that tool. Have you guys talked about that tool much on the show?
We have, and I have to say it's an oldie but a goodie, and I love it in this situation. Like, I don't know how many of us have been in a meeting and someone's brought this idea up as if someone's going to think that it's a bad idea, or I need to prove my point here, and you can feel this really aggressive energy behind it of, you're going to come up against me with this like throwback for my idea. And having that place of being able to be an allowance and have that energy of interesting point of view in the whole scenario, it just kind of makes it a really different way of functioning. It's definitely a lot easier, funnily enough.
Yeah, it is easier, especially when you start playing with it and see like how that tool, even though it kind of sounds silly when you're saying it, actually does create a sense of space. Because the more space that you can create for yourself, the more you're willing to be present in those situations where bullies are almost trying to make you go away and leave and feel uncomfortable. That's when you actually can have these sort of like words that just come to your head. You just almost like know what to say and what to do if you're really present in those uncomfortable situations and you don't leave.
And how empowering is that? Because, I mean, like, we've all been in that kind of situation where someone has said something to you that you were just like, really? Like, what is going on here? And what is your real point of this? But you feel like you have nothing to say in return, and there's like this stop in your world, and you feel like your tongue is in your throat kind of thing. So I love this. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. I'm saying it in your head over and over again until you have a sense of ease with it. So maybe that's something that you can put on a little post-it note while we're on the phone. Having that change. This is your business. This is not business. It's professional. Everything.
What if every moment of every day you had more choice, more tools, more allowance of you? What if joy was your priority? If this is the kind of life you would like to create, you can join Simone Milasas on the Adventure of Living series, a worldwide telecall where every month you can explore different topics using the Access Consciousness tools and processes to change any area of your life you think is not working for you. Business, money, parenting, bodies, relationships, the list goes on. And what if it did not have to? If your life was the adventure of living, what would you create it as? For more information and to sign up, go to accesstheadventureofliving.com.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on OMTimes Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Hello, everyone. This is not Simone Millicis here if you just joined us on the Joy of Business radio show. This is Rebecca Hulse, the creative producer of Joy of Business. And today I have with me my favorite hijacking buddy, Emily Russell, on this now regular hijack once a month for Joy of Business. And we have a very fun friend of ours here on the show today, Glitter Goddess, who is a dominatrix, and her business is one that I've seen grow and create itself, and it's absolutely fascinating to me the different ways that she's used social media and different kinds of marketing avenues, and it definitely made me go, there's a different way to do this. So actually, I thought I was going to talk about some part of your bio that I totally admired, but it turns out I want to go in a totally different direction. So I would love to know about marketing a totally different business and how you went around the different kinds of challenges that you had.
Yeah, it's an interesting business to try to market because you want to have as many outlets as possible in the whole world to help people find you, and then to also have a business that's kind of taboo and in sort of in the sex industry, really. So that's been a really, really interesting thing that I've played with from the beginning. But one of the things that I did a little different is when I first started out, I actually looked at nobody else's way that they were doing marketing. Because everywhere where I looked in dominatrix businesses, I was like, this does not represent me at all. So like there was just like maybe one day where I like went to a couple sites and then I was like, okay, well that won't work for me. So I really did just invent this entire idea, I guess, of playing with people's secrets, playing with the things that turn them on, the things that excite them, and not having to reference the way that it's been done anywhere else in the world.
I love that.
I do too, and I'm so curious because with that whole thing of social media and marketing yourself, like you have your persona as a dominatrix, glitter goddess, right? And then obviously you have another life. So can you talk about how you did that with social media and being public? And I know at one time you maybe kept it more separate and now you don't, and just kind of that, like how you live and promote kind of two lives, two businesses, without creating separation and actually allowing them to contribute to each other. I would love to know more.
Yeah. I did start out keeping them kind of separate, and that felt somehow safer to me at first. Because there were things there were things that I was exploring as Glitter Goddess and with that business that weren't necessarily things that people on my like private Facebook page would even be interested in. So I think part of it is just knowing who's out there looking for you and what aspects of your life are they interested in. It's kind of similar to if you go to and I think Emily and I've heard you and Megan Hill, who are just brilliant at marketing, talk about this when it comes to social media. If you're at a soiree or just a party, you don't shake somebody's hand right away when you meet them and tell them all the things that you have for sale. You be you, and then that's an invitation to, hey, I wonder what else this person has going on. So that I really took that to heart and just was myself in as many areas as I could, while also letting people know what options I had if they wanted to have, private conversations with me or learn about my products or things like that.
I love that. And the other thing that I noticed that you do as well is that you're actually on a few quite contemporary or different kinds of marketing platforms. I'd say like you're on Instagram and you're on Vine and I wonder what else that we don't actually know about. that it's just something different that I often see a lot of people bypass and go, oh no, everyone is on Facebook, or no, I need to really get a bunch of followers on Twitter, or these more traditional kinds of social media platforms for business. So I'd love to know a little bit more about the different ones, the ones that are kind of off the grid a little.
Sure, yeah. And one of the things that I've focused on from the beginning is not really necessarily trying to have really high follower numbers in any of the social media platforms that I was on. Because I would also look at other people's businesses and see like thousands of this and, thousands of likes, and it would almost be a little bit intimidating from the beginning. So I was like, okay, I just asked with everything that I put up, whether it was a photo or a video or a little quote or just something that I was doing that day, I really tried as much as possible to have me show up. And I didn't focus as much on what I thought people were would be interested in. I just almost had this it's hard to talk about. I've never actually I've never looked at that before, but yeah, I guess I just started inventing things on my own. like Vine is one that really took off for me without me putting really any time into it, because they're only 6-second videos, 6 or 7 seconds. And I would just, shoot something fun, something sexy, something silly or seductive. And then the numbers just grew and grew and grew. So it's kind of funny when you look at the energetics of what you post, because the things that I had almost the least charge on, or we talked about interesting point of view, the things that I really didn't have a point of view about, those grew at a faster rate. So that's kind of an odd thing that I wasn't expecting.
That's really cool. And you can tell when you talk about that, there's just this ease and I don't know, it was kind of fun. I just posted whatever was fun for me.
Yeah.
And it's so true that creates so much more, because you don't have all these expectations of what it should be or shouldn't be like. That's so cool.
Yeah, and one of the things too is I realized that because my business is in that sexual area, I didn't expect people to necessarily like the things or follow the things, because a lot of people, for example, on Twitter have their more, some people make fake profiles on Twitter that they'll then interact with, but a lot of people will just look and see what's there, but they don't necessarily feel comfortable liking things or commenting. So I really had to shift my point of view that that's what means my message was being effective. There were situations where I would have somebody who became a wonderful client, where we talked for even years, and at the very beginning of the conversation, they would say, oh, I found your video on YouTube a year ago, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. So I think there's a whole idea of the instant feedback on social media that actually that short-term thing isn't necessarily something we have to pay attention to.
I love that. And I think that's so important for entrepreneurs as well, to know that your reach is actually going further than you think it is. You're actually creating more than you think you are. And if you just acknowledge that without any requirement to ever have that actual validation show up, I wonder what else you would be willing to just create and go out there and just go ahead and do it in business anyway. Because, come on. The reason we do this and we create things like this is because it's actually joy of business.
Yes.
So why not? Would you not just, cool, I created this, and then what? And let's move on, and what else can I create?
Yeah, and just kind of keep moving, keep choosing, keep creating things.
And not judging
one
it.
More. Yes, sorry.
No, I was just because all three of us were just in Denver at one of Simone Millis's Joy of Businesses classes. And one of the things she said, we kind of had this topic, it often comes up, judging yourself in business, but one of her great quotes that we were talking about this idea of order and chaos in business. And she said, any time you judge yourself and what you're creating, so how many followers you have, if you're doing something right, any time you do that, you're actually functioning from order, which is a way to limit your business. And so many of us have been taught, we almost think the other way, is that chaos is what limits us. And I don't know if we have time to go into that, but I would love to go into a little bit of that with domination too, because you naturally don't that the sex industry, quote, like, is so judgeable, and to be in that space without judging yourself, without judging your clients, is such a different way of being in business and being yourself.
It really is, and I'm not sure that. Yeah, go on.
We all need to talk at the same time. This topic is turning us on. Just one more thing before we get off down this track. I just wanted to point this out. So, like, just as more of a business piece, this is my business brain coming back in here. When I look at what you're creating online and like on your website and with your classes and the different things that you do, not everything you have is this perfect airbrushed picture that a professional photographer shot. And I happen to know that your partner in crime for a lot of this is a great shot at these, but I also see that a lot of it is, again, coming down to that lack of point of view and the willingness to be seen exactly as you actually are.
Yeah, well, part of that has to do with also just being a goddess. Like, I chose the name Glitter Goddess. I didn't choose, like, Glitter Mistress or, like, something else mistress. Like, there's something about the willingness to love yourself just as you are, and to then just keep choosing, and to not necessarily reference back to, like, oh, I don't know how that session went yesterday. You just kind of, like, you just keep choosing and keep going on, and when you appreciate yourself, it kind of takes it out of something that's judgeable. Because somebody could spend a whole lot of time sitting there judging me, thinking, like, how could she do that? How could she put this kind of information out on the internet? And that gets outweighed every time I get a note from somebody saying, you changed my life completely. I always wanted to explore this area and talk about this area, and there was nobody that I ever felt comfortable with. And now that I've explored it, I have more happiness in my life, and I finally know that this is something that really is enjoyable for me. And it's actually not uncommon for me to get those kind of messages. Like, if you sometimes, like, read my email, it sounds more like I'm a transformational coach than I am, like, in the sex industry, with, like, little hints of things here and there. But it's just so rewarding.
I love this. And our conversation is cut off, so we will be back after the break. Stay there.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Radio Namaste leads you down the yellow brick road into portals of consciousness with the blue collar goddess as your host. Interviews with humans who could be famous or just popular, and answers to everything are on the agenda. Tune into OMTimes Radio and drop in on Thursdays at 3 Eastern. It's a different brand of enlightenment.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
What if your job, your life, and your business didn't have to look or feel like anyone else's around you? The Joy of Business tools and classes aren't about following a set path to success. They are a treasure box of questions, tools, and resources for you to expand what you already know about business and take the leap into more possibilities. Learn more about the Access Joy of Business 101 class by going to accessjoyofbusiness.com/101. What do you know that could change your business and the world? accessjoyofbusiness.com/101.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
And we're back. In case you've just tuned in, this is not Simone Melissus. This is Rebecca Hulse, the creative producer of Joy of Business. And I have my amazing sidekick, Emily Russell, who is also part of the Joy of Business team and a Joy of Business facilitator. And today's guest is a little bit hot, and she's definitely been a fun conversation. We've actually all just been proving at her website in the break, just because we love the way she positions her products. We're mixing proving and pleasure and business all at the same time. We have Glitter Goddess on with us, and she actually has something that I think is going to be really interesting for anyone wanting to add a little bit of different energy to their business and the way that they connect with people and are willing to create something different. So, Miss Glitter Goddess, would you like to tell us what you have on offer for us that is making me really excited?
Yes, I have a class coming up called Are You Being Dominated and How Not to Be? And we're going to be playing with all sorts of energies of domination, not necessarily finding a submissive and having them bow to your feet and kiss your toes, although that can be an open conversation too. But it's really about using the energies that I've learned in my business to actually create more of what you'd like to have in your life. So it's a 2-part call, and each call is going to be an hour, and it's really going to be an open forum for any questions to come up and just explore those topics.
I love this. I think this is going to be really awesome. So just while we're right on topic, how do people find out about this amazing class? Where are they going? What are they doing? Tell them what to do.
I'd love to. That's my specialty. So you go to areyoubeingominated.com. Pretty easy URL, but I've got all the info there on the class and private sessions and things like that.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited that that is also in store. But I would like to get back to business for a second, because as we have been proving on your website, I'm noticing that you are creating new content and new offers and possibilities all the time. And I would like to know more about how you're creating your business and how you don't just have all your eggs in one basket. If we came down to the clear business plan of what you're actually doing here, you actually have a very multi-avenue way of running your business, and I actually think it's brilliant and fascinating.
Yeah, well, I have private sessions, and I have videos that people can buy. And one of the main things that I do is everything that I put out there is stuff that I enjoy making. So it doesn't necessarily feel like work, and that's where Simone Melissus has contributed so much to, and the tools of Access Consciousness, to creating this business, because I don't think I would have the energy and the drive and the desire to keep going with this if I were kind of trying to more find out what other people wanted me to make and then going for that. One thing I know is that everybody has certain skills and aptitudes and areas where they excel that nobody else actually has that specialty. So when it comes to my business, I've played with the things that just come easily to me, which I didn't even know it when I first started out, but the area of erotic hypnosis has been an area that's just been total ease and really fun. So I'll play with that. And another thing to focus on in business is when we have these things that we're really good at, it's an easy tendency to try to over perfect or to just like put the very best thing out. And what I've done instead of that is to actually have more content, more like play with more different projects, and just know that my 80% is actually way more than somebody else's 100% because I'm being me. So it's not a comparison against like person to person. Like competition isn't something I necessarily focus on at all. It's actually like every single person in the entire world has something that they are absolutely brilliant at. And with that thing in your life, if you're, putting things out there and having fun and creating content and creating whatever it is that you do, you don't have to necessarily try to have it be the best all the time. Because like I said, your 80% is usually better than somebody else's like 120 just because you're naturally good at what you're doing.
I love that. You mean being you changes the world and is easier than anything else? What a strange concept.
Yes. I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
I love in your bio, Glitter Goddess, how you do talk about, like, how you do want to, like, your kind of target. And it says, like, your mission is to spread your self-taught, self-motivated, and self-empowered. Glitter Goddess is now offering the techniques she uses in her business, in classes, and private sessions to empower those with dominating forces in their lives, be it in their relationships, business, or family. Her mission is to spread these tools so that no one ever has to be the victim of a dominator, an abuser, or a bully, which is like such a different way, like being you and what you're doing to change that. It's like, I love that. If you want to talk any more about that, I think it's a really, really cool target.
Yeah, well, it's actually a bit of a vulnerable way that began. It's interesting. I'll just go into it, but there was a time in my, late teens where I was having a sexual experience with somebody, and so I was having sex with someone, or I was like wanting to have sex with somebody, or like playing around, and then there was a moment where I realized, like, this isn't fun for me. I don't want to do this anymore. But I had all these kind of ideas in my mind. Well, I led him on, to this point. And there was just so much stuff going on that actually in that moment, I was like, I would like to create a kind of language or a set of tools where no matter what situation people are in, they always have an easy way to say no, or an easy way to say, I'd like it to go in this direction, or to have that sense of themselves that they can actually shift so that they never. And for me in that moment, I was like, I never want to feel like I don't have a choice, and that I have to just kind of go along with what I chose already. And it was interesting because I did actually find a way to say, actually, I'm, don't want to play anymore. But I do remember that choice point where it felt like I didn't have a choice, and that didn't work for me at all.
And there's so many times, like, I love that because as, like, whether you're in a marriage or in a job or somewhere where you feel like you don't have a choice or something's not working for you, like so many of us don't have the words or the tools or feel like we do have the choice to change it. And this is such a different way of going about getting in touch with that energy, But it's really, It really is this, it's transferable to so many areas of life.
Yeah. And when you start to look at like, okay, so what if I do have permission to be the chooser in every area of my life? What if no matter what anybody else does or says or kind of like throws at me, that I know what works for me, and I know how to even gracefully communicate that. So that's a lot of what I'd like to see in this world and with the work that I do.
What a different place that would be.
Awesome. Yeah, right? How cool is that? I also love that. And in your other life, we have also worked on other projects that has that same kind of effect. And I just love to see that you can have this one thread and demand in your world that this does create a change. And this, even though your business could be about the weirdest thing, maybe you sell pot plants or cat toys, or whatever it is that you do, but if you have that demand and that request in your world, that does create that different energy that is possible in the world, that it does actually contribute to that. And you can see that energy goes out way further than you could imagine and create a whole new world, really. And I just love that. So what if that was something that you could apply to your business, no matter what it is? What is it that you truly desire to see in the world, and how can you apply that? And what if it's just from the sense of your very being? Everything that doesn't allow that, can we destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, proclamation. Simeons.
I was going to podpoc for you.
Oh, that's just awesome. I didn't think about that. We have to run another clearing in the meantime.
Right. Well, so we're on this show, and Simone usually does it, and she's the creator and founder of Joy of Business. And when I look at your bio, too, it talks about how, like at one point in your life you were really looking for, and I think many of us do this, like that you cut down your life and like not having any drugs or alcohol or meat, or like you didn't even have eggs, and to really go like trying to create your life from that place, and then went back, you started to go the things you love, like painting and like really savoring your life. And can you talk a little bit about how that switch to the joy and pleasure of your life changed everything, like your business and everything else?
Oh, it did. You know, the idea that really caught me about that meditation path that I was doing, where I took all those vows, and chastity was one of them, it was the idea that they presented that I had everything within me. Everything, all the happiness and all of the joy and all the connection, it was all possible like within me, and it wasn't something that I needed to rely on anybody else to deliver. So that really excited me. But what they also encouraged with that is actually like renouncing everything of the world and all of the, you know, pleasures of life, because you don't, like, that's not the source of what your real happiness is. So I played with that for about 5 years. I did not do that quickly. But it, like, what that created is less and less and less, because I really was narrowing down my life, so it kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So there I was at like 23 years old, kind of high up in this organization where I still didn't necessarily have a sense of peace at all. I was still waking up with panic and not really feeling fulfilled. And then I took an Access Bars class, and then Foundation, and then 2 days later, a Choice of Possibilities class with Gary. It was called Level 2 and 3 at the time. But what was created from that was this huge aha moment where I was like, oh, wow, this is like, living is not about getting rid of things in your life. It's what can you add to your life. And from there, whoa, did things grow. Like, my money flows went like crazy big in comparison to what I was creating before. The number of friends that I have in my life, the people who contribute to me in so many ways, expanded. And to be able to have a glass of wine and not like exclude that is like no, like there's no chance I could do that. It's just like everything shifted. So that was about 4 years ago that I took my first Access class.
I
Talk
love
about
that. And
dynamic
I especially
change.
love the concept, right? Especially love the whole adding to your life instead of taking away or trying to get rid of more things in your life. As I mean, and also like as a humanoid, you don't want to get rid of anything. You just want to add more, create more, have more, be more. Why would you ever have less?
Yeah. And if something doesn't work, instead of saying, I'll never do that again, it's like, well, what else could I do instead? It's a very different energetic approach.
Just something to consider while we go on this little break.
Great.
What if there were an easy way to let go of all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that keep you stuck in your head without any effort? Join the founder of Access Consciousness, Gary Douglas, and co-creator Dr. Dane here for a one-of-a-kind global class to learn the bars, a process that effortlessly and easily releases the electromagnetic charge of what holds the thoughts, feelings, and emotions in your body. Participate live in Houston, Texas, or via livestream on October 7th. Access Bars have helped tens of thousands of people change many aspects of their life. Are you ready for a brain reset? Visit globalbars.com.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Join Elliot Jollish, the business therapist, each Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern for the Elliot Jollish Hour. as he interviews business experts on your behalf. And you're invited to email your business questions to questions@ecjgroup.com for answers, live, on air every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on the Elliot Jolish Hour. Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, everyone. We are back for this last segment on this awesome show that I have really enjoyed. And just in case you just joined us, go and listen to the rest of the show as soon as this is over. This was a really kick-ass episode, and it's not Simone Milasas, in case you haven't guessed by the accent. This is Rebecca Hulse, the creative producer of Joy of Business. And I have with me Emily Russell, my favorite sidekick, and we also have Glitter Goddess, who is our awesome guest on this show, and I have had so much fun. And seeing as we just saw you in Denver and we all changed our entire realities, in case you didn't know, Simone just threw away all the Joy of Business manuals. We're starting from scratch. So we don't know what the new classes are going to be like, but I highly recommend that you go and find one near you. There's Joy of Business facilitators all over the world now, and in multiple languages too. Slovenian, French, German, Spanish, Portuguese. The list just keeps getting bigger. So go and find a class at accessjoyofbusiness.com. And speaking of classes, why don't you tell us, Glitter Goddess, what Joy of Business tools you have been using in your business?
I use actually a lot of those tools. Simone's manuals, even though they change a lot, are my main manuals that I go back and look at out of all the Access Consciousness classes that I do, just because they're really pragmatic, and my business is such a huge part of my life. For me, if joy weren't infused in every aspect of business, like what's the point of doing it? I wouldn't have one. So it's actually like turned my businesses from, because I've done so many businesses. I had a hat business where I did one-of-a-kind hats, and I've cleaned houses for a living. I've done so many different things. And the business now that I have as a dominatrix, it took off as soon as I started using these tools. So some of the tools that I play with, one thing that Simone said that I just absolutely loved this past week was, if you had $1 billion, and that just like renewed fresh every year, and you had a new $1 billion to work with, what would you create? And I've asked this a whole lot, and for a lot of people, the things that kind of come up first are things that they would spend the money on. But once you kind of get past that a little bit and start to look at, okay, so if it wasn't about spending, what would you create? And the things that I've come up with, they have, one, been things that I'm actually already doing that I hadn't really acknowledged my business was already accomplishing, which was a really cool thing to just know and then move forward from there. And it's just given me a whole another sense of what I'd really like to have in the world, because if you're an entrepreneur or you have an area where you do have some creative liberty to create, what is it that you'd like to have out there? I also looked at this when I did a whole lot of painting, and I studied painting in college. And there was a time where I was like going through like a existential crisis where I was like, this is so like self-indulgent. What am I doing painting? And then I looked at it and I was like, wow, so if I actually don't paint this particular painting, nobody else will. Like literally nobody else has what it takes to create this painting. They don't have the background or the energies or the anything. So when it comes to your creations in your life, like what is it that you could create that nobody else has that, would you like to see that in the world? And if it's yes, then it's actually up to you to get going on it and just take the first steps to actualizing it.
I love that. And I love that question too. Kitsa Bowman actually gave a question like that about a year ago to me, and she said, if you had $1 million, like $100 million in your bank account, what would you be waking up and doing on a Monday morning? And I actually realized that I would be doing exactly what I'm doing right now. I would be creating these wonderful businesses and working with the tools of Access Consciousness and Joy of Business to create a change in the world. And, you know what? I'd actually love to hear what you guys that are listening would like to create too. So what if this was your home play? If you had $1 billion and it was just there for you and it was going to renew every year, truly, what would you create in the world? What if you posted that on the Joy of Business Facebook page, or you sent us a tweet? Or if you want to email us, you can email OMTimes@accessjoyofbusiness.com, because we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to say hi. We want to know who you are. So just a little bit of home play for you from this amazing show. I'd be very glad to hear from you, because you know what? This is not just speaking to the wind. This is speaking to you. And these shows are for you. So just a little thing that I would love. Why don't you help us out? Help us help you out. And let us talk about what actually you would like to talk about. Because you know what? Sometimes we like to talk, and sometimes we don't know what you would like to hear either.
Yeah. And another question to ask, too, is if there were no rules, what would you create? My business, I guess, couldn't really have happened if I functioned from the rules that most people kind of apply, like you shouldn't talk about sex openly, or you shouldn't, be hearing people's secrets all day. And so if there were no rules, what does that change your responses? I think that would be really interesting to play with and hear what you guys have to say that comes up for you about your own lives and business.
What if the rules did not apply in your business? And what if you did go, you know what? Screw it. I'll create a business the way I'd like to, creating it the way that's fun for you, and the joy of it too. And that's actually a lot about what it's about. And one of the things that actually really thrills me with creating with these tools of joy of business and access consciousness and these classes, these incredible classes that I'm seeing all these facilitators come back with, and all the feedback is starting to come back too, which, you know what, just makes me a little happy to see what we're creating in the world and see all these tools out there in people's businesses, no matter how weird they are or no matter how strange they are. There's just something about it that makes me joyful and grateful. And grateful to see
the clearing statements like that.
It is, exactly.
It's weird and it totally works. And one of my favorite clearings, there were just so many from Simone's class, but she had a clearing, everything that you've done to fit into your industry, destroy and uncreate all of that. Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Which I realize, if anywhere where I am trying to fit into my industry, that's not you necessarily or me necessarily creating from all the possibilities that I could. Because if I really tried to fit into my industry, I would not be very happy. I had to create my own area that worked. So anywhere where any of y'all listening are fitting into your industry, can we destroy and uncreate all that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, poc, pot, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds.
You've got your pod pocket.
I got it in. And I love that, Georgia, because that's the whole thing, like how Simone always says, your life is your business is your life. And your industry could be being a mom. It could be, whatever that is. What if you didn't have to do it by anyone else's rules and you really could create it your way? It just goes to every area, because so often, whether it's a job, an industry, God, I just think of when I tried to do being a mom like everyone else. It just doesn't work until you actually be you in every area of your life. And then the money shows up, the place shows up, the friends, like you said, everything changes from that simple thing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so grateful for this conversation. Cool. Yeah. So we have a couple more minutes. Where else do we want to go? I wonder.
I just want to remind everyone about Glitter Goddess's class. I think it's actually going to be really amazing. What are the dates for that again?
It will be next Monday, which is September 26th, and then the 27th. So it's two parts, an hour each call. And, the website again is areyoubeingominated.com.
areyoubeingominated.com. Awesome. And I would hopefully say that if you're listening to the replay of this show, that you might still be able to get in and get those recordings maybe. Maybe if you ask.
Oh, it's actually, it will actually be next Monday when people are listening.
Awesome. Perfect.
Yeah.
How does it get any
September
better than
26th.
that?
And if they listen later, then yes, probably there will be replays, or I might have other classes going on. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
we'll see
now
where it goes from here.
Yeah, now I really kind of want to just put you on the spot for the last 2 minutes, because I can. If you could give anyone listening to this show 5 tools for adding domination into their business, quick fire go, what would they be?
So the first one is to look at what turns you on in your business. What part of your business is the most exciting to you and kind of actually adds an energy to turn onto your body, and then look at where you can expand that, or what else you can add that kind of gives you that similar energy, because that energy of turn on and excitement and arousal is actually something that is a creative and generative force. So if you can add that to your life, it can create more money, more fun, more of all the things that we would really like to have. Okay, that's the first one. So the second one is interesting point of view. I have this point of view anytime anybody is looking at, anytime you feel dominated, anytime you feel like somebody's really trying to overpower you or sell you something or convince you of something. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. And just say that until you've got the space of you. So the third one would be to make a demand of yourself to not go away. Because something I see over and over is when there are bullies or people just being downright mean, they're usually trying to intimidate you out of existence or out of being present. And the more that you really choose to stay present in that moment, the more actually control that you have. Because they're definitely not expecting for you to stick around.
Awesome.
Very quick.
Last two. We only have 30 seconds.
Okay, cool. So fourth one is to think of 5 things that you love about yourself and appreciate about yourself, and just kind of give yourself a hug while you're looking at those. And the fifth one would be to maybe masturbate today. That's my fifth one. Find something yummy and play with it.
This has been Rebecca Hulse, Emily Russell, at Glitter Goddess. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you, guys.